Hello, everyone. Today I am joined by Miss Tiffany Ricks. How are you doing today, Tiffany?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me, Tony.
No problem at all. Tiffany is the founder and CEO of Hackware. She is an ethical hacker, and I'd like her to explain what is an ethical hacker and also tell us about Hackware and what your company does.
Good question. What an ethical hacker is basically is a company hires you because they have some concern about how a breach could happen, but they don't know how it can happen. And so they hire a professional who has, who understands how real criminals could break into an organization and steal cyber data, digital data.
Mhm.
And so you're doing it for good. So companies are hiring you to break into their organization because they don't know how a bad actor could get in. You're showing them, how it can happen through a vulnerability in their application. If they're a tech company or if they have an application, you're showing them how a bad actor can target their employees through social engineering attacks like phishing, which is what Hackware does. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. Or you're also showing them how, you can also show them how in the physical world, like actually going to their company, seeing if you can get into the building and getting data that way. So it's also called red teaming, but this is a way so companies can stay out of the headlines. We're seeing every day that a breach has happened and all of this data is lost and all of this money has been paid in a ransom. And so the job as an ethical hacker is to break in before a real hacker gets in and closes all the doors. And what we're doing here at Hackware, I'm the founder and CEO. Hackware is a AI platform that simulates what an ethical hacker does. So it simulates breaking in through test phishing emails, and it's trying to see, is your employees aware of the tactics and tricks that cyber criminals are using to try to get resources and data from the employee. And so we'll test them through a simulated attack. But then it's about countering that. So if there is some users who don't know those tricks and they're changing all the time, it's hard to keep up. The Hackware platform is going to train them in their email to show them how to counter some of those phishing attacks and to stop the company from being exploited in a ransomware attack, which starts with phishing. And then once they get the data, then they lock down the machine until they get what they want. And so Hackware is stopping that with our automated phishing simulation and training platform.
Interesting. And can you describe phishing in more detail and give an example of a cyber attack that involves phishing?
Yeah, so there's various types, but at a very basic level, phishing is a email. It can be in the form of an email, but someone is trying to impersonate either a company. It could be that they're impersonating Amazon. A lot of people are shopping on Amazon. There's a lot of emails that come from Amazon. And so a easy way is that a cyber criminal can get a domain that looks like an email address that looks like it is from Amazon, send the message to an employee. There's a lot of people who shop, so they're probably going to find somebody that that this lands and it makes sense for them. And then in the message, it is trying to get the user to click on a link. Another version is maybe they understand that someone is working at a company and the company is large. And so they see on LinkedIn, there's a name. They can create an email address that looks like it is coming from someone from that company. They send it to someone else at that company, impersonating them. And that's a way that they can try to get data. So it's basically just trying to phish, which is trying to lure and get information from a user with an email that is impersonating a brand or someone in their network in some way. So that's the basic level, but there's all different types. There's CEO impersonations, and there's what's called spear phishing, which is it really, they do a lot of research on the employee to try to make the email look as real as possible. And so at a very basic level, that's what phishing is.
Interesting. And tell us a little bit about your journey and what led to your interest or you forming a business of this sort.
My journey started with, well, I've always been in entrepreneurship. So my dad was an entrepreneur. I was a kid that loved building businesses, went to school for computer science, went to an HBCU in Atlanta, Georgia, called Clark Atlanta University. Started learning about computer science there. I loved it immediately and built my first company when I was at CAU. And then I went on and started many other companies. But what got me into cybersecurity was I decided I wanted to work for one of the largest Department of Defense organizations, L3 Technology. And I worked there as an engineer, but what I saw while working there was cyber criminals are targeting the government. And we're probably seeing this more now than way back then. But that led me to want to learn more about cybersecurity. And I moved into different roles that allowed me to explore that, like security engineering, and then red teaming, which is called ethical hacking, did that. And then I decided I wanted to open up a business that helped companies understand how a criminal could get in, which was what I was mentioning earlier. So I opened up a consultancy where I work with the government. I also work with large companies, small companies, and I can tell you everywhere the problem was that security, they have a hard job. Like, they have to manage so many things. And the problem is that they just didn't have the time to properly train the employees that worked at their organization. And so when they would hire my company to figure out where the holes were and how a criminal could break in, it was always the easiest way was to show them that their people just had a lack of education around cybersecurity. They didn't protect themselves from they were reusing passwords. And so, I mean, that's a huge vulnerability, and they just didn't have the way to sort of protect themselves in their company and in an easy way. And so what I did was I decided I wanted to build a product for my consultancy that would automate a lot of these tests and then train the users throughout the year. And so we built it for us. This was something we built in 2019. It worked great for our consultancy. And I decided this is a product we should actually, put out to other companies who have this same need, where they're working with small businesses and medium-sized businesses. They're supporting their IT and security needs, but they need an easy solution that's going to train those business employees. And so we launched it, put it out there. I stopped the consultancy side of the business and just focused on Hackware, the security training product.
So who is your customer?
Yeah, our customer is small companies, mid-market. That's an underserved market, the SMB market. There's about, in the United States, 33 million small businesses. And oftentimes many of them don't have any cybersecurity set up at all. And so oftentimes our product is that first product that really gets them to start trying to figure out how they can protect themselves from cyber criminals. Or they may have something, but the security training solutions that are out there require them to continue to, they require them to manage it. And so they have to have someone that is understanding how are cyber criminals targeting people today. They have to learn that. They have to figure out, okay, how should we test our users where we're not sending out these email blasts where everyone gets the same message at the same time. We found that that's ineffective at stopping breaches and stopping these phishing attacks. And so we're really trying to serve that underserved market with this easy to use product. It does the work for them to understand the testing and training process. It's a set it and forget it product. And so we've been very fortunate to have small businesses around the world using us. And I'll tell you this, Tony, another key reason why we're targeting small businesses is because 60%. So when they get hit with a ransomware attack that starts with a phishing attack, when they get hit within 6 months or less, they're going out of business because it's too hard to recover after you have had your data stolen and then you're trying to put the pieces back. Right. Or if you pay the ransom, then that capital is hard to sort of regain and dig yourself out of that hole. Yeah. And then also the reputational damage, if that gets out into the press or your customers hear that their data has been a part of a breach or your organization has been a part of a breach, trust is lost. Yep. And so it's very hard for a company to come back after something like that happens.
That's interesting. Speaking of getting shut down, Lincoln College, a 157-year-old HBCU out in Illinois, they are literally closing their doors today due to the effects that they've suffered from ransomware and COVID as well. What suggestions do you have for educational institutions when it comes to, I guess, protecting their faculty or protecting their institution just in general? Because I know that's happened about 10 times this year or so already.
Yeah, that is very sad to hear. I mean, because it is something that could be avoided. And I know definitely universities, so the education industry, K through 12 organizations definitely have been targeted by cyber criminals. And it's been at an all-time high since we talk about COVID, at an all-time high during this pandemic. And as we move out, cyber criminals have been targeting those education organizations because they have access to data that they can use in other attacks. So they have access to a wide range of user data. So they have access to financial data. If people had to put in, fill out for loans, they're putting in social security numbers, they're putting in information about where they stand financially. And so there's that opportunity to get data. They're getting data just about email data and potentially login data. If the employees or the students are logging into their systems, they know that there's a lot of credentials that they can use. And oftentimes people use the same password in one system as the other. So the opportunity is we can get this data here, but we can take it and get into another organization. And so the motive, and I talk about that because of the motive of why something like this happened to Lincoln. And then, how could they have stopped it, which could help others as they kind of hear this. And so 90%, when we talk about bang for your buck, and security is one of those things where people they don't understand. There's so many things that they could do, that they have to do, and they don't know where to start. But the easy thing to start with is to train your users. So 90% of data breaches start with employees and students, because they have access to them and they can get access to other information, and it's easy to get to them. And so the way to make it hard for cyber criminals to get in is, number one, let's start with training. So let's train everyone continuously, not just once a year. We have to train, I say train 12 months out of the year. Every month we're training the users, and we like to do it Hackware every 21 days. So if you're not using Hackware, find some platform that makes it easy for you to continuously train those users. And then the other thing is, step two is, now let's make it easy for those users to prevent them from reusing passwords. So let's deploy out a password manager. And the cool thing is that if you enable, you can enable, if you're using a G Suite product, like a Google product, you can enable their password manager. That makes it super simple and easy. There's so many other products that have password protection and management for free that companies and organizations can deploy. And so that password manager is great because it will handle, making sure across all these different platforms that there's different passwords in those systems, and you don't have to remember every single one, which one they are. It's going to set that up for you and manage that for you. The other thing is to protect the organization. It's always good and I'm just thinking about basic minimums. We can, there's certain things we can do at different levels, but at a basic minimum, the third thing that an organization should do is just install a malware scanning software, where if there's something that was put on the machine by a cyber criminal through phishing, if something like that happened, it's going to immediately detect that and take it off the machine. And so oftentimes what we see is that there's viruses and malware that's been on the machine. It's been undetected for at least, we've seen 197 days where it's been on that machine collecting information, collecting keystrokes, and gathering information to get to the point where there's this lockdown of the system. And now we got enough information to hold what we have. And if you don't pay, then you'll never get it again. And always back up your system.
Right. Wow. So it seems that this hacking is I'm sure, easily $1 billion or multiple $1 billion industry at this point.
Yeah, companies this year are on track to losing $6 trillion due to ransomware attacks. And so these breaches, they're big business for cyber criminals. And around the world, it's a $6 trillion loss that companies are feeling. And unfortunately, with Lincoln, they're going out of business because they just can't handle, those losses that are happening.
And I guess that kind of answered my next question, was about the market that you're serving. So clearly there's $6 trillion being lost, and you're helping these businesses not lose $6 trillion at the end of the day. So that's interesting. Switching gears a little bit here, you recently raised about $2.3 million for your business. Congratulations on that, first of all. And wanted to find out, what was the process when it came to fundraising, like contacting investors and that whole show?
Yeah, that is one thing that I just don't enjoy. I don't enjoy fundraising, and I can tell you why. So we raised our pre-seed round with Techstars in 2019. And it was a small round. And then after Techstars, because it's an accelerator, it's a 3-month process where you're working and building your business. And then you have a demo day. And then after demo day, the goal for them is that you raise more money. And And so after demo day, we tried to raise money and it was tough. And now that I look back, I kind of understand where we made the mistake. So we were talking to organizations that didn't invest. So we were talking to VC firms that didn't invest at our stage. They said it, but if you look at their investment strategy, they invested later stage. And so we were a risky investment at that time. And so it just spent a lot of time targeting the wrong investors that they would take the meeting, but they were wasting my time. And so what I decided to do was pause raising, and I decided I wanted to actually just focus on building the business. And so what I did for a year was I said, I'm going to be heads down, focus. We're going to just serve our customers. And we're going to every week put out a new update. And this is going to create momentum. So it's going to be a compounding effect where we're going to have a better product by the end of the year. We're going to have customers who see that we're serving their needs and we're meeting their needs faster. And then it's also going to create what I wanted was a pool where I would pull in investors instead of me trying to go and seek them out and find them. And so it did just that. By the end of the year, I said I was going to open up my raise for our seed round, and reached out to some investors that I had already built a relationship over time. This is a relationship business, and so you have to build a relationship with them. It's hard to get someone to give you money if they don't know who you are or haven't seen what you've done. And so reached out to some that I had a relationship with. It still was a challenge, but the great thing was I was able to get our one term sheet. It was a terrible term sheet, I can tell you that. And it was terrible because they wanted to invest $1.5 million, but they wanted to give it to me over a 18-month period. And the problem was there wasn't any milestones where I knew that I was going to get this money. You know, if we had X amount of customers at 12 months, we can get that money. And then they wanted to keep the terms the same over the 18 months. So the problem with that is that we were growing rapidly, and within 18 months, we were going to be a totally different company, but they were going to be able to piecemeal their investment over that time. Right. And so it was just a terrible deal. And so I decided I was going to leverage that term sheet and find another investor that could give us better terms. And so I ended up deciding, you know what, let me think about who would resonate with us the most and who could really help us the most. And I decided I was going to focus on, I wanted a lead investor that had diversity investments. I've seen that. I wanted to see that they've done that before. And I wanted to see, and I wanted a investor who was an operator before. So they ran a business before. And that led me to Elevate Capital. And the managing director, we met, he flew out to New York. We met over coffee. And he immediately got what we were doing, was super excited about it. And I loved his mission for diversity. I love their mission for diversity. And they gave me a term sheet immediately with the best terms. And so from there, I decided I wanted to work with others who understood diversity and understood cybersecurity. So that allowed us to allow Aura Innovation Fund. They're a cybersecurity company, but they wanted to invest into underrepresented founders. Mm-hmm. So there's a synergy there, and we're going to explore that more. And then we brought in 2.0 Ventures, and I like them because they have a cybersecurity background. They understood our business and during the pitch, they were telling me about our company, and they've been watching us for a long time. And so it was refreshing when we switched and just decided I'm going to focus on, these are my core values. I want diversity focused investors who've been founders before, and they get the mission. And that allowed us to have an oversubscribed round where we brought in some great angel investors, and eventually had to not dilute everything, tell some investors that they couldn't be a part of this round. But it's a great to be in that position when I was coming from not being able to raise money because my focus was just totally on the wrong thing.
Interesting. And that year that you took a break, it seems that you then focused on, as you said, building the company. Mm-hmm. And that period in time is what probably made you more attractive to the investors that ended up coming. So what did you do during that year to make the business more attractive? And also, could you elaborate on how you grew in terms of client acquisition?
Yeah, so it's all about, making sure, for me, it was about, I think I got to a point where I was like, I can build this business without these investors, with or without these investors. And I started focusing on building a real business where we had real companies using us. They were paying us, and then they were not just paying us, they were actively using the product, where when we put out something new and there was a potential for them to upgrade to pay more, we saw those customers actively being involved in the product and wanting to pay more when there was an opportunity. We found, I love that we didn't use any marketing dollars, like as far as using ads to recruit customers. We built a community with our customers where they were telling others in their network, this is Hackware, this is what we're doing. And so it was, and so for me, it was focused on building a real business with revenue, having customers that these investors could, talk to, and they could see a trend in these customers and hear that they're saying the same thing over and over again on why they love the product. And so I think that's what made the business attractive. And so when they think about, okay, all she needs is, revenue to keep reproducing what she's doing, what they're doing on a bigger scale, I think that made it a less risky investment for them, because they're trying to think about, their limited partners and trying to show a return for them. And so I feel like for me, I had to make it super simple and easy for them. And it's probably what a lot of, your audience, when we talk about minority founders, Black founders, unfortunately, we got to make it easy for them. And too much ambiguity on how we're going to make money and how we're going to, just having a deck that I haven't seen that work. You have to make it easy for them.
Interesting. So lastly, what milestones do you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so for the next 5 years, we really are going to be this platform that, so the goal is to build a product that is a more integrated product where we can, help the administrators that are deploying this product, make sure that this product seamlessly works with the other products that they currently have. We're moving towards a training experience that feels like a work simulation, where it's showing them by doing instead of just watching a video, which we have that, but we're moving towards this whole reimagined training work simulation. And then in 5 years, I see us being that product that is, no matter where the user are, whether in their email or they're on their mobile device or they're doing something in the metaverse, our platform is going to be right there in the moment, showing them that this is a threat and coaching them how to get rid of that threat and how to get out of harm's way. So instead of training for when it happens, we're going to be right there and getting them out of the way.
Awesome, awesome. I'm pretty sure you're going to achieve that goal and more.
Yeah.
So keep up the great work, and thanks again for stopping by to chat, Tiffany.
Thank you so much, Tony. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.